Welcome back to watching Ian's social skills atrophy in slow motion. Uh, no, just every time I don't upload a video for a while, I'm like that whole muscle memory kind of like starts to disappear. But I assume it'll come back. Okay, so I was making this shot right here, and if you look at it, for a long time, you start to see kind of all the little things that make it work. It's again, it's a bunch of very basic techniques and a lot of stuff that I've talked about before. Basically, all of the birds are just straight up the moth lazy tutorial. But I'm happy with how it all came together. There's like 6 different bird systems going on. There's like wide swoops, and there's tighter bird swoops, and then there's birds killing time, and then there's birds eating, and then there's birds walking. And of course, a birdseed sim, which I'm pretty happy with. And there's actually on his backpack, there's a Wigglebone sim. I'm very excited about this new Wigglebone add-on. I think I'm gonna make a whole video about it because it's just such an easy, great way to add secondary motion and stuff. This isn't really a great showcase, but I've got some videos I'm really excited to make. And then of course the cloth sim parented to that wiggle sim. But yeah, let's jump in. I wanted to give you a breakdown of this and kind of show you how to make some of these bird systems. A little bit of this is going to be redundant if you already got the crow asset, because that talked you through how to make the whole Boyd setup, which is basically what we're going to be doing it again. But let's start with walking birds. And just two other quick updates. Dynamo is, I think the next episode has edit lock, which means that now I'm not going to be changing any of the edits, which means I can send it to the sound team because they have to have everything locked before they start tweaking everything, or it's a big pain in the butt. So that, if you've ever worked in film, that's a huge milestone right there. Especially if you do the editing but not the audio, because that's when you're finally kind of handing off your baby. So I'm getting ready to pack everything up and send that off to them. I'm not sure about their timeline when Impossible Acoustics is going to be able to take it on, but I'm very excited about that. And also, I'm running a GTX 3090, which is very exciting, and it makes a lot of rendering a lot more doable. Obviously, like a lot of the... I don't want that to mean that anything I'm doing is now not doable by people with a laptop, because I'm like, oh, just add 10 bazillion particles and you're the best GPU available to like mankind or whatever. We'll just take care of it, because that would be dumb. So yeah, still gonna try to keep everything as low poly and basic as possible. It just means when it comes to like me trying to render out episodes and things like that, I can do it over a lunch break instead of overnight, which is gonna change a whole lot for me. Very excited about that. Okay, birds. Okay, so we have a pigeon, and I think all of you've seen this. This is a pigeon asset I made a while ago, and he's controlled entirely through shape keys, and I really love shape keys. I know I've already talked about them like a bazillion times, but here, let me add a new one here. This will just be ARG! And if we go into, with that selected, if we go into edit mode and just like do that, we now have a shape key that just tells the mesh. It's basically storing the offset data. So if we change it to 1, we're saying, hey, just move that mesh over there. And if we could make the minimum, instead of 0, -1, and we can go back the other way too. And so look at that, it's flying. No, I'm gonna delete all of these. I have one slider that kind of makes it, perched on like a wire or on the ground, and I want to keep that one, so I'm gonna delete the basis first, and then that one. And here we go. We've got our raw pigeon. I'm gonna I'll upload this guy if you guys wanna play around. Alright, here's a shape key, and let's the basis, which just says basically this is the original pigeon. Every other shape key is what this is, is deviating from this. And so I'm gonna add one more here. Let's call this footsteps. And I'm a little nervous because there's a chance this will just not work at all, but I'm a little optimistic. Okay, so I'm gonna add some edge loops here, yeah, and maybe even make the legs just a little longer. Here, I'm gonna turn on proportional editing up here so I can kind of do that. And let's see, does that look about? Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so oops, I've accidentally added that in the footsteps one. Here, I want to keep that, so delete this, new basis, new walk. Okay, good. Ignore that. Whoa, sorry. get back up onto the origin. Changing the basis shape key. I just want him to be, you know, the origin and everything to be on the ground. Okay, here we go. Here we go. And so now the key doesn't do anything. We're just going to put him into one footstep. So grabbing this with proportional editing on and connected only, I'm going to drag it back, holding down control. Like, I'm going to snap it to four footsteps. Yeah. I'll do the same thing to this, but in the opposite direction. GX 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. And here, let me turn on the oh no, the screencast keys. And when he walks forwards, I want to actually have his entire body swivel just a little bit. So here, let me grab these, turn off connected only, and I'm going to slide all of this stuff just over a little bit. The reason I'm sliding it on the y-axis instead of just bringing it like this is, remember, it's storing offset data. So if I go from here and go, well, the tail will be swinging around, it won't swing around the other way. It'll go the inverse of this, so you'll have a tail doing this. So I'm just going to kind of split the difference a little bit and kind of just bring it back like that. And if I were really cool, I'd probably see, my guess is their head is doing a little bit of a side-to-side animation too, but this should work okay. So we've got this from neutral to footstep, and we can change this to -1, and he'll just do this. There's a little glitching here, but that won't matter. I'm going to open up the graph editor here, and let's start adding some keyframes. And I should, again, go look at some reference and see exactly how many steps per second a pigeon does, but let's assume it's like 6 frames per step. So we'll start here. I'm going to add a keyframe at 1, and then go 6 frames later. I add another keyframe. 6 frames later. Was that 6? We'll find out. Add another one, and now we have a little animation thing. Looks like that was not. That was 5. Yeah. So if I select these and I hit Shift E, it'll bring up the keyframe extrapolation. You can also do that like up here. Yeah, extrapolation mode. Shift E, make cyclic, and that adds a modifier automatically over here that just repeats whatever keyframes you have. And so now we've got our little walking pigeon. Oh, he is adorable. But the thing that makes a pigeon looking like a pigeon is the head bob. Everybody knows that, and so I'm going to turn off, just so the shape keys don't overlap at all, I'm going to uncheck that, and let's create our little head bob right here. Here, I'll call this footstep, and let's create another one, and we'll call it Mr. Old Bobbin Head. Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these points here and just drag it forwards. Now I've got our head bob slider. And I guess if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we want to keep these in sync, so we want the head bob to be, you know, I guess half of that. We want it to be a 6-frame loop, because he bobs for every time a foot goes forwards, and in the foot loop it's 1, 2, and so his head should be like 1, 2. Don't worry about it. So going back here, I'm gonna add a keyframe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or no, I guess it's 1, 2, 3. This is a very quick head bob. I might. This might look insane. Okay, with that selected, Shift E, make cyclic. Turn on the other one. It's pretty quick. So the head actually leads the foot moving forward by a little bit. It moves the center of gravity forwards, and the foot catches it. I think is kind of how it works. So I'm just going to offset that forward a frame. And that looks, I mean, it looks dumb. It doesn't look great, but if we get a big crowd of pigeons, I think it'll work. So let's try to do exactly that with Boyd's. So oh no, first thing we need to do, and again, I do hope that's not too fast. Should I just scale it up a little bit? Oh yeah, there we go. That's better. I'm gonna duplicate this bird because this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is it? 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 14. So I'm gonna duplicate 14 birds. I still got my nodes going, so it's randomizing them a little bit. And I'm using Shift D because I want to be able to offset the animation data without it affecting all of them. And then I'm just gonna go through, and for all of these, I'm gonna offset the animation by 1 frame. And then by 2 frames, and then by 3 frames, so that when they're walking, 4 frames? 5 frames? They're not all in sync. 6 frames? 7 frames? Okay. And now, here they go. They're all slightly out of sync. Look at that chicken foot sine wave. It's beautiful. Did I say chicken? Embarrassing. Alright, I'm going to put all of these in the exact same place with Alt-G. So now we just have our one nightmare strobing party pigeon. I like it. Alright, and I'm going to put all of these into a pigeon group. M, new collection, the pigeon zone, from which they shall not return. Uncheck. Alright. I'm sorry, some of the interface is behind my face. It's not that I think I'm more important. Normally, I create a little empty space there so that nothing happens under my face. I started this project over and I forgot to create that space. So I apologize. I think it's explanatory from context. Now we're going to create our plane here. And I think we might just be able to jump straight into it. This will be the ground. Yeah, now that's the color of ground. Create a new particle system full of the pigeons. It's going to render as a collection, and the instance collection will be the pigeon zone, of course. And now here we are. We've got all these tiny pigeons all raining on every parade. I'm going to set the scale to 1. And that has made it better. No, under physics, I'm going to change from Newtonian to Boyd's. And now look at that. It's like a horrible Macy's parade. I'm going to change the movement here to not be flight, but only land. And now the pigeons. So this, I don't know. We're seeing a couple things here. First is that they're walking along the wrong axis. They're all walking to their left. So I'm going to open up the pigeon zone here, and I'm going to rotate it, I think, like this. Control, apply rotation, and now they're all walking forwards. That's nice. And the other thing, we're seeing that they're banking here, which is pretty cool, kind of a motorcycle type maneuver. But under, let's see, is it miscellaneous? I'm going to turn the banking and the pitch all down, and now they'll just be walking straight. Also, like seeing them like this, the footsteps suddenly look far too slow. But let's see. Let's figure out why they are floating. And this happened before too, and I actually don't know what the deal is. But all we have to do is bring this down to like 1 unit below, because they're 1 unit above, and I think hit apply location. And now they'll all actually work. But that is an annoying kind of thing. Okay, let's scale this up. And now we have room for all the pigeons. Continuing to tweak this, we want them to all start appearing and finish appearing on the first frame. We want their lifetime. Why ever have pigeons die? 10,000 frames. And let's only have like 250. Now how are they looking? I'm gonna slow them way down. I think I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm going to select all the pigeons in the pigeon zone and try speeding up their walk a little bit. Let's see if we can do this without making too big of a mess. Just scale it. It's too hard to see what I'm doing. You know, that sped them up a little bit. And I'm going to change the maximum land speed to be like 1. So now we just have, there we go. Now they're kind of lined up with their speed a little bit. That's good. It's still looking obviously too uniform. So what is governing their behavior, because it's a Boyd system, is this right here under the Boyd brain. You can give them rules. And their first rule is they want to separate. They want to have their own personal space. And the second rule is they want to still kind of be close to other birds. So if we make this like really big and hit play, ideally you'd see them kind of try to get close but not too close, which is cool. That said, we can introduce another behavior which is a goal. So let's create like a little empty here, and this will be, whoa, oh, I accidentally added it in the pigeon zone, so it's becoming a Boyd. Here, let's add it to the regular collection. I do that a lot. For the with the guy casting the bird seed, when I was going through the scene, it was lagging so bad, and I was like, "Oh no, what's even happening?" And I did the render, and it took forever, and the bird seed didn't look right. It turns out I'd accidentally dumped my entire Greeble library into the birdseed folder. So instead of just like a cube for every birdseed, it was my entire Greeble library being cast 300 times every time the guy waved his hand. And so was able to fix both the birdseed and the horrible lagging issues I was having. But okay, here we'll call this the bird ball. All the birds in town want to play with the bird ball. Just hit plus under the Boyd brain, and we can add a new rule, which is a goal. And the object is the bird ball, and it's prioritized, which means right here it's third in priority, so they don't really care. But if we make it second, suddenly we should see their behavior start to change, and they all start trying to get in on that sweet bird ball action. And ideally, as long as they have enough space, they're not actually going to bump into each other. Right now, they have too much space, so let's turn that down a little bit. Land personal space. Let's say like 0.2. We don't want them to run into each other. 0.5. Ideally, 1 equals 1 the size, the size of themselves. Like, interesting. Okay, so we have a lot of them kind of milling about, which is, yeah, they're just trying to cram in there, which doesn't look great. But what I did is I actually crammed this in with a bunch of other systems, and having them all kind of walking is pretty darn cool. You get some good pigeon behaviors really quick. So here, let me shrink this down. Let's just do some experiments real quick. See if we can make this look a little bit better. The fact that they start so evenly distributed is kind of weird, and I think if we had this kind of moving over time, we'd get more dynamic movements. Let's try turning down the speed a little bit. Or let's turn up the speed. What happens if they can go twice as fast? The feet start to look, a little slippery. And that's one of the tricks. You just have to line up the speed they can move with the speed that the shape keys are going. Even still though, it's not too bad. Okay, so this was one of the systems to have the pigeons just walking around. And again, I think it would work a lot better if you had fewer. So you just have a couple pigeons kind of just like hanging out instead of like 10 bazillion. The more, it's a balance, because the more complexity you have, you can have a simple system duplicated a ton, and you can suddenly it feels real. You're like, whoa, look at all those birds going around. But at the same time, sometimes if you get too many of the same thing going on, your brain can kind of see the patterns and see the strings pulling it. But yeah, so a lot of this is just coming down to figuring out the right land speed and their personal space and all of that. I think I want them to bump into each other. If you're at a low camera angle, you can't particularly tell they're walking through each other. It's only when you're like right above that you might be like, hey, his tail's going through his face. But I want them kind of crammed in there. And max land angular velocity. This is how fast they can rotate. So if we do something like this, they're gonna just walk straight a lot, which could help, avoid that milling behavior where they were just kind of getting, all wiggly right there. This is, I guess they kind of look a little bit random. If we turn it all the way up, then they're able to just pop around in place. And so you want to just kind of have that dialed in. Looks like they're crammed in there, so they're wiggling a little bit. I'm going to try turning up the fuzziness and see if that... Whoa! Yeah, I guess that's one question of alright, what do they do once they actually reach the goal? They just kind of try to pack in there, which is where having other things to break it up, or just keeping the goal moving so they don't actually reach it can be really good. Also, sorry if the audio quality is a little bad. When my CPU's processing, I think it's the CPU, it creates this buzzing in the recordings, and I have to filter it out in Premiere, but that also filters out some of my voice. Here, let me just turn it off for a second. Hello, internet. This is what I sound like normally. It's just I've been having to filter this because of my CPU. And I guess for this joke to really pay off, I should have to add in the buzzing I was insisting that I was filtering out. I am not gonna do that. Did that joke come up? I was trying to do a sexy voice. I was trying to be like, I filtered out my sexy voice, but I don't think I really did the sexy voice. The birds eating, obviously the same setup, just kind of, you know, they're bobbing down like that, and then you clean up these shape keys so it doesn't get, you know, that big hump or whatever, but then you have them bobbing. The flapping ones are the exact same, again, as the moth tutorial, but with a few differences. So yeah, the flying pigeons are actually the crow asset I released a little bit ago, but I lightened the color and also made it translucent, which is kind of my favorite part of the shot, actually. But it's, again, very similar to the moth tutorial, except just a whole bunch more shape keys, because of the thing I was pointing out. If you have a wing curling up, if it doesn't curl back, you know, it wouldn't curl around, it would extend out. So I had wings kind of doing this, which is no good. So I actually had to have two different shape keys and toggle between them for going up and down to keep the wings from getting too weird. And then, like, but even then you'll notice, you know, as they're crossing between the two, it gets kind of stubby in between because it's going from this top position kind of straight down. And so I had to, like, extend it out sometimes to compensate, and then the feather tips to keep them kind of blowing in the wind. I looked at a bunch of reference for this. They have little elbows that kind of like lead the wing, and there's also, they go, and when they're pulling up, you know, so they tuck their wings in so they can push down and then push down. So I have that going on too, and so it was just a lot of, I've got some tail wiggle kind of going on too. And it looks kind of weird on its own, but when you put it into a flock, it works really good. So yeah, I just shrunk them down, sped them up. I had a little bit of trouble trying to dial that in, but yeah, actually, I was really happy because the feathers actually do overlap a bit. Once I added the translucency, you could actually see those overlapping colors, and it was colors. My words, and I was pretty happy with that. And they look good in motion. They've got a good bird essence, I think, and even without a goal, they'll still kind of turn into flocks. I love watching boids just kind of do their thing. It's fun. But yeah, the settings for getting this going is basically exactly like I just showed with the walking pigeons. All of the wings are offset. The only difference is under the Boyd physics, instead of landing, they all have flight. And I'm just tweaking, you know, their airspeed instead of their ground speed, but you still control their personal space, and you can still give them, you know, goals and all of that stuff. Boids are great for that. This is actually the first time I think I've ever used Boids to have something on the ground, and I'm really happy with it. I think you could actually do, like, crowds and stuff that way, if there's, you know, kind of crappy low poly people. But that's fun. In fact, I wonder what would happen plugging that one low poly photo scan group. They wouldn't be animated. I'm gonna try it. All right, yeah. So let's just try it. This is the low poly character set that I uploaded to the tier 7 folks a while ago. I'm going to hit Alt G, get rid of their location. I think I want them all aiming towards the top of the screen, so they're walking forwards. Put them in a group. People. Hide it. Oh. Let's get it. So there we go. Creating a plane here. Woo! Setting up our particle system. New, it's going to be people. It's going to render the collection of the people. And the physics will be Boids. And what are they doing? They're very tiny. They're very tiny. Oh, what is happening? What is this? They're laying down. Okay, that's okay. First I'm going to make them big. Still bad. Let's turn people back on. Apply rotation. See if that. There we go. Now they're upright. Yes. Yeah. That'll never not be funny. Okay. So first things first. You land, and under miscellaneous, we won't have the people banking as they walk around. Personal space. I think I don't want them to have much. Look at that. Okay. Turn off the strobing here. I'm kind of just going through it right now because I want you to see that, like, it isn't intense to set this stuff up. You just plug the thing in. Oh, wow. Look at that. That's just a milling group of people. Oh, wow. Okay, and so up close, we are definitely in the nightmare realm. What's he pointing at? What's he pointing at? But from a distance. Okay. I I'm gonna use that for sure. And again, if you look real close, you're like, oh, they're not moving their legs. But especially if you're kind of down low, that just looks like. I'm very excited that that just worked as well as it did. And this isn't an instance of me just having a really powerful computer either. Because they're all low poly and we're using instancing, it only has to hold, like the 25 low poly people in its memory, and the rest you get mostly for free, I think. I would have thought the Boyd processing would have used up a little bit more CPU or whatever, but let's try 5,000, see if it starts to lag. We're still at 20 frames per second. That's pretty wild. Look at them. You can start seeing, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you can kind of start to see the strings a little bit if you get too many people. Let's have them, wait, so what else? Follow leader. Do we get to pick who the leader is? Is that different than goal? How is that different than goal? You guys, I'm basically done now. I'm just like, I want to find out. I've never really played with these. The cylinder is the leader. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Tempted to say political stuff right now. Do 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 do. Okay, this is gonna have some just figured this out energy, but I just found out two things. The first one is that force fields can affect Boyds, it's just like any other particle, which is very cool. And the second thing is that force fields can be emitted from mesh objects, which I didn't know. So, okay, we've got this situation here. The people are trying to get to the goal object, and they're kind of spreading out, and they're going there, but they're going through all of the walls. I found out, oh, you could set up, we could set up some force fields here and keep them away from, the walls. Right now, if we do this, repels them like a thing that repels things. But if we turn on max distance, we can kind of just set up a little thing. So I was like, all right, we can keep them out of these corners. And if we check the room here, we can make it a collision object. And let's see what happens. The people, they try to stay out of the corners. And they bounce off the walls. And I was like, that's a lot better. But, all right. Forget these force fields. We can make this whole room a force field. So, in fact, I don't even know if it needs to be a collision object, but force field, here we go. And the shape is going to be coming from the surface here. And, oh, this is still using my last force field settings, so I can't go through all of it. But yeah, I just set up the max distance to be, 4 meters, so they don't really get close to the walls. And you can make it kind of fuzzy by changing the power, so it doesn't look so obvious. But look at that, now we have a big room of people, and you can actually channel stuff. And you might be wondering, can we use wind? Yeah, we can use wind. Let's blow these guys out of the room. Get out! No, wait, I changed my mind, come back. Go through that little crack. The power of the distance means they don't particularly want to do that, but this is fun. All right, sorry. I'll go back.